Welcome to Service Six Sigma, a live stream for mobile service professionals. Great news, you're here early. Please stand by as our live stream is about to begin. Thank you. Did you know that Service Six Sigma has 6 sectors? Here they are: attract, convert, deliver, control, scale, and give back.
Hello, Ben here with Service Six Sigma. Are joining our live stream early to watch our pre-reels that we have on our live stream. Play this for about 10 minutes and then we will start our show at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you.
The things I'm talking about tonight is this this funky weird acronym called FRAP. Okay, what does this stand for? So the first letter in this FRAP formula is frequency, and I have the word dentist here. Okay, so this is the first thing I'm going to throw back to another industry is a dentist. So as a service business, one thing that we can do to increase our revenue and increase the value of our customers is increase the amount of times that we service them. So window cleaning is really good at this. Carpet cleaning is usually pretty good at this. Pressure washing, depending on where you're at, could be challenging. But think about, I wrote dentist there, right? So think about it when you go to the dentist or you go to get your hair cut. When you're leaving that service, as you're paying or before you pay, before you walk out of there, what are they doing? They're booking your next appointment.
Visit www.service6sigma.com to finish watching the 4-piece marketing puzzle. Thank you.
Back in June of 01, someone left me unconscious on the side of the road in a hit and run motor wreck. I lost my career in IT. I lost my savings. I lost a photographic memory. I was messed up. Fast forward a little ways to July of 2002. I have an eviction notice from our apartment. I have turned my BMW into the bank. I'm waiting on Italy to make parts for my Ducati. I am 2 weeks out of a full shoulder surgery. I'm in an isolation brace, a neck brace, and a morphine pump surgically implanted in my shoulder. I call up one of my buddies and I say, "Hey, will you come over and shake my couch out for me?" He laughs. He comes over. He shakes my couch out. I grab all of the change off the floor and ask him to run me to a dollar store. I buy a bottle of awesome window cleaner, the cheap stuff, and a roll of paper towels. I also buy an empty squirt bottle so I can water down the LA Awesome window cleaner. The next day, I shove my sling just full of paper towels and I hook the bottle of window cleaner on my belt hoop, and I start walking down the road, going business to business, just simply stating, "Hello, my name's Brian. I'm poor, I'm hungry. I'd really like to eat tonight. May I clean your windows?"
Want to hear more of Poor Man Brian's story? Visit www.service6sigma.com to hear his full story. We also have many more great podcast videos to hear from as well. If you want to be part of our future podcasts, please message Ben Bergloff or Perry Tate on Facebook. Thank you. We have many guests that we have on our show. Be part of a growing community of guest speakers and share your professional insight in the mobile service industry. Welcome to a free live stream built around 6 sectors. This live stream created for mobile service professionals. We would like to introduce you to your host, Ben Bergloff. and Perry Tate. Welcome to Service Six Sigma, your live stream for mobile service professionals.
Boom.
Boom.
And we're live. Let's go. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about wisdom behind good business. And we've got a special guest, Mr. Robert Lesser. But first, I'm going to quickly explain what is Service Six Sigma. Service Six Sigma is a live podcast, live stream, and it's available on Spotify and Apple, if wherever you get your podcasts as well. And it is for the service industries, where we're going to reach out from our traditional industry, which is exterior cleaning, and we're going to go through to, carpet cleaning, electricians and landscapers and roof people and all the people who do mobile contracting. And the Six Sigma part, well, Six Sigma is actually a business term, which is basically, if a business is Six Sigma, it's perfect as can be. So the airline industry and the nuclear industry are both meant to be Six Sigma. The process of Six Sigma is when things go wrong, you create systems and processes to avoid them. Obviously the intention is you already have systems and processes for things to go right. So in order to help us understand, how to apply Six Sigma to our business, we've broken your business into 6 sectors. And they are, the first one is like, how do you get a customer? So you need to attract a customer, prospecting. That's all of your social media, influencing, local content, how you interact with your community and get people to notice you and come towards you. Having come towards you, you then give a quote and create a sale. That's the conversion process. And so there are ways to do that in an automatic way using Responsibit or something like that. And there's ways over the phone using Google Earth, and then there's face-to-face. So we're going to talk to different people who use those different ways. Having sold the sale, we now need to deliver the service. And that comes down to tools, technique, efficiency, on-site safety, on-site procedures, all that kind of thing, as to how do we get on and off a work site faster. And now that you've got business rolling, there's always this problem at some point where you need to have control, right? So maybe your notebook and or your Excel spreadsheet or your small CRM, you need to go to a bigger CRM. So everything is about automation and setting up systems and processes, SOPs, standard operating procedures, training systems, training regimes for your staff. Having got to that, you're now rolling this business along. You've got a perfectly working truck. You then go to scale. So you may scale to multiple services, or you go to scale to multiple trucks. Then there's a chance for all the people that have helped you and all the knowledge that you've got to give back. Like you end up with what Robert has definitely coined as the right thing, is wisdom behind good business. So without any further ado, I shall introduce the man of the hour, is Mr. Robert Lesser, and we are going to be talking about wisdom. So how do we define wisdom, Robert? That's a good place to start.
Yeah. First, I want to say thank you so much, Perry and Ben. I appreciate you guys having me on. I know you guys have other things going on, family, jobs, etc. I don't take that for granted. I really appreciate you guys doing this. It's really good, giving back. It's very nice.
Yeah, we're enjoying it a lot, crazy lot.
Cool. Great question, Perry. Wisdom is actually the application of knowledge. People may hear something and they may have the knowledge. They may read books and may listen to different speakers, etc. And they have information, but they don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
But when they start applying it, then they actually see the practical value of it and how it can enhance their life, their work, whatever it might be. So it's the application of knowledge.
Nice. Okay. And then, so if we say wisdom behind good business, because you chose that word behind, and I thought that was an interesting word. I was thinking and rethinking it, and then I thought, no, you're thinking the behind has a dimension. What's going on in your mind when you think the wisdom is behind the business?
Well, as you have certain steps here that are to help any business become successful, recognizing the different aspects of what's needed. I had started my business like 35 years ago, and
Holy dooly!
yeah, and I came to realize that there were some decisions I was making that I didn't understand why I was making them, and so kind of like what I wanted to just throw out there was the motivation behind, just like anybody that's out there, why is it that
Yeah,
they want to have a business where they're self-employed, whether it's window cleaning or pressure washing, solar panel cleaning, whatever it might be. What's motivating them to want to do that? Because what I found out back then was a lot of what's taking place with us as humans is actually beyond our awareness.
yes,
And it could be broken down to like 5% is awareness verbalized, and then 10% is awareness non-verbalized. In other words, you can hear like maybe birds in the back or cars going by, and we're aware of them, but we're not talking about those things. And then the
right,
rest of it,
right.
the 85%, is beyond our awareness.
Huh.
And it's kind of like a lot of people are kind of like on autopilot. They're just doing
Yes,
things by
yes,
rote, and they're not really thinking about what they're actually doing. They're just doing it. I like a saying, they've become human doings, not human beings.
uh-huh. I like it. Yeah,
And
I
so
like it.
I wanted to find out for me, what is it that is going on that I wanted to have a company that I would be self-employed. And a lot of the things that are beyond our awareness has to do with, why is it that, like, I might talk to a client a certain way or be triggered by another client? What's going on
Yep.
behind those scenes? Because they have a huge impact on, where we're going to go, how
Yeah.
successful we're going to be. And so, it, you know, I wanted to try to work to kind of bring them into my consciousness, if you will,
Yep.
so
Yep.
that they're not controlling me behind the scenes.
So to dimensionalize this, how did you choose to define success for you? I think that's always what comes up in every show because there's,
Yeah.
somebody will go, "Oh, Tommy Mello is so successful," and he is undoubtedly successful, so successful. However, not everybody, including myself, would aspire to be as successful as him.
Sure.
I just didn't aspire. I don't aspire.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you define the success that you are? You're either on the journey towards, or you've reached this status. Because there's definitely a thing which comes also with age where you go, that's actually good enough for me. That's what I want. I might have dreamed to be, a billionaire, but when I get to a certain size, I'll go, actually, that's enough for me. I'm
Yeah.
cool with this.
Yeah. And that's an excellent question, because I think that really drives so many people to go beyond their means, because they're not
Nice.
even comprehending what the actual verbiage is there. What is
They're just
success?
doing to get to something,
Yeah.
which is usually way more than what they need.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of times they're influenced by, how they grew up, whether or not they had their parents' approval, what trauma
Yes.
they went through. They could now be making decisions that hinder them being successful. Like maybe if they have like fear of man, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
concerned about the client so much that they compromise their boundaries. They
Yes.
say yes when they want to say no. And
Yes.
so regardless of how much money is made, regardless of how big their company is, if they're not content inside And if they don't have that balance of healthy boundaries, they're not going to be successful, because really, what is success?
Yeah, well, that was the original question. So you can crack on with what's success, and then we're going to go back to my next question, following which you can follow on with is were we always like this, Robert, or is this something which comes with age and time and wisdom and experience?
Well, to answer your first question about success is, what does everybody want on this planet? I mean, if you narrow it down to one word, it's happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of, so no, I want to go give. That makes,
Yes.
I want to make somebody else happy. Well, that makes them happy. So
Yes.
that's, the society we live in throws out this thing called the American dream. And regardless of where you live, it's, if you're here, then you have reached that. And it's like, that's so subjective.
Right.
It's so relative, because you're not dealing with circumstances that are actually important. The components of what makes up a person are they balancing that out? The emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical aspects of a human being. They can have all the money in the world, but they're dying inside because they're depressed.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah. So success varies depending on what a person prioritizes in their life.
Yeah. Because we can pretty much achieve anything, let's say, with as long as we have the competency. And a lot of people get told that they can achieve far more than their competency, but the people that ultimately become aware. But the part which is interesting for me is being, older now is, and we can draw the same conclusion. You and I talk the same language, but for example, Ben is 24, so Ben will be listening to this and go, well, I mean, Ben, at 24, you don't actually have enough life, possibly enough life experience to you haven't walked enough miles to have got all of those experiences which in order to draw the conclusions. You know what I mean? Like, so my question is, tell me about young Robert Lesser. Like, when you were, because I think if we get this juxtaposition between us when we're young and we talk about when we're old, anybody in the middle can pick up on the journey that we went through and understand that, the conclusions that, this wisdom is really about you. I think that's where you're leading more than the business, but and something. Anyway, you go from there.
Well, to touch on Ben, being the age you are, and I'd heard other ones that you started around 15 or so, and accomplishing what you have is commendable. And
totally.
if regardless of how old the person is, if they feel content inside with where they're at, doesn't mean they don't have goals. Doesn't mean they can't reach for a little bit more. But really, what is motivating them? What is in actuality their priorities in life that they've been taught, we've been inculcated since youth to believe specific things, and that these things bring this. And I think it was it Clayton the other day on one of your on the show who said, people live with I'll be happy when, and it's like, what does that actually mean to each person is very subjective, because you're dealing with circumstances that are different for each individual.
Yes.
If an individual,
how does a person apply that to themselves? Because that's the thing. Because these are I totally agree with you, by the way, 100%. But the generalization. So we go back to the specifics. So you go, okay, there was a young Robert Lesser. How ambitious was he? Because if you are super ambitious, then the super ambitious people will pick up with you. Yeah.
Say that last part again, Perry.
If you were super ambitious, there's some guys like Creighton. You heard Creighton the other day. Like, he's super ambitious. He wants to be the king of the world, right?
Yeah.
He wants to be in the Tommy Mello level,
Yeah.
And then I was never that. I've never been. I've been ambitious.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I've been bordering super ambitious, but I'm not super ambitious now. So I'm. It's this journey when we talk to the older guys and the younger guys are listening. They're going, like, how does that apply to me? That's what I'm trying to do, is, try and put in some early some milestones from our earlier lives that we can, where people go, you weren't always like this. You didn't always have wisdom. So how do we get to wisdom, and who were we, so that people can relate to that,
Yeah, and those to me are the core issues, really, because if we don't really find out where we can get good advice and proper wisdom, then who knows where we can end up.
Yeah.
And
because it was harder in the older days, right? In the old days, there was no social media. There was no.
Yeah.
There was a couple of industry groups, the PWNA and stuff like that.
Yeah. The other day, you asked somebody, like, what did your parents have you read book-wise? And I thought about that, and I said, when I was younger, my parents actually had me read the Bible. And
right.
I was like, it wasn't until I was an adult that I actually saw the practical value in more areas of my life. And part of that appreciation for what I saw there, because I've read a lot of books from Dale Carnegie in the 30s on up, went to classes, motivational speakers and all that. And they all say the same thing. They all get practical value that is actually in the Bible.
Yep.
And if you remember Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yep.
I watched an interview with him, and he said all of his information came from the Bible. But he says, I couldn't call it the 7 High Habits of the Bible because I wouldn't sell any.
Right.
It just helps us to appreciate that. So I tell people, look, whether you believe in God or not, don't take away the practical value that you might find in this old book of wisdom.
Yes, I think that's the best way to put it.
Thank you.
Yes.
In investigating it, I was able to see how, for a business, how to think.
Yes.
I heard you say the other day, you were quoting some scriptures about, we need to do unto others,
very much.
And when you think about something that seems so simple, love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
And yet it's so profound, because what we're actually saying is you have to have some sort of good feeling about yourself. And in this,
nice. I like that, because not many people love themselves, actually.
Exactly. And yeah. And in the Bible, I've seen that it's not that we do it in a unhealthy, narcissistic way, but we have.
Well, there are plenty that do, by the way.
Yes. But
we don't.
Yeah. And reflecting on how I was and where I'm at now, I realized that I had to build up my self-worth, because if you don't build it up from inside, and for me, my relationship with God, then we search elsewhere.
Yes.
We look to authority figures for approval.
Yes.
And that's self-destructive.
Depends on the authority figure, surely.
That was my,
like, if it's your, even if it was only your pastor, if you wanted to stay completely where you didn't leave the confines of the church,
if and again, it's not to say every authority figure, because there are certain ones that work to follow the moral principles found in the Bible. So certainly they're not out to get you.
Yeah. I think the principle through all cultures, not just ours and not just Christianity, is the principle of the elder, and the elder has lived enough life to have, because you call wisdom the application of knowledge. My definition of wisdom is that knowledge is what you know, and wisdom is of what you know, what not to say or use. it's a
Yeah.
filter, like just
Yeah.
don't
Absolutely.
say it. Like,
Yeah.
you don't need to say it. Don't say it, or the person's not going to receive it. Don't say it,
Yeah.
whatever. So, and the same, but it's this journey towards wisdom. Like as we get older, like we're now older, we now have this thing where we perceive that we have elements of wisdom, but we didn't always have. Mum was wiping our little butthole, when we're 6 months old, and then feeding us with a spoon when we're 1 year old, and then picking us up off the ground at 2 years old, and somewhere we end up here. And it's that journey of the young man or the young woman going from childhood through puberty into young adulthood. Ben's chapter, which is that 18 to 33, is probably young adult where you're still finding yourself, and then after 33, 35, 34, 35, 36, somewhere after that is just this clarity which goes to, and I don't know where somebody becomes wise. I've got no idea where that, maybe,
Well, once we try to categorize something, we've lost the thought of being able to understand circumstances change. Individuals who might be successful in one area may be chaotic in another one. So when we look and say they are this or they are that, we're not doing them justice, and we're not doing anybody that we're speaking to about them justice. Because I see their whole life, so I'm going to follow them. And sometimes negative attention is better than none at all. We go into the direction that's not necessarily.
Oh, for sure that. That's. I mean, our industry is riddled with that problem.
Yeah.
So okay, so let's spin this around and come back to work. So you've been. What services do you provide? Like, just so guys who can relate to what business you do.
I started with window washing, then I got into pressure washing. I have a building in the city, San Francisco. I live in the Bay Area, so San Francisco.
You're in San Fran?
20 minutes from San Francisco. Yeah, the Bay Area. I've been here all my life, different parts, and I have a big 8-story building. I do a lot of handyman work, if you will, painting, building shelves, kind of stuff like that. That I've been there for 20 years. And I just started getting into solar panel cleaning. And it's an unbelievable niche, to say the least.
Yes.
And one of the pictures.
How much are you getting a panel? Ben and I had this conversation the other day. How much are you getting a panel in San Fran? One of the things people have asked me for years, how much you get for a panel of this or a window pane and stuff. I've never ever counted windows. I just, my brain works a little different when I look at a house. Very differently, yeah.
Yeah, because I always say, okay, I need this many pieces of ladder. I got the sectionals.
Yeah.
And I need to be able to move it this many times. And so I figure out how long will that take me, and then how much do I want an hour, instead of trying to count each one and going from there. Right. To each his own. Everybody has their own way. As far as solar panels, it's funny because I watched one of your podcasts and people fluctuate it with how much, and on YouTube they say how much and stuff.
Yeah.
I tell you what, do you have that picture of the Google Earth? Because I can kind of explain what I'm talking about. And before I had heard you say this, I had been doing this. So in other words, I'll go to an area, I'll just push Google Earth and you push the little arrow and it tells you exactly where you are. So you just tune in to where you're at. And I think I sent one picture where it shows the different streets. If you can blow that up, that'd be cool. Because what you get to do is actually count the panels, and then you get to see the angle of the roof, when you're standing right in front of it. Yeah. So, for those that can see, there's several of them on this one street, and that's why I took this picture, because There's probably 8 to 10 houses that have solar panels. Those are the ones that I walk up to. I really
Nice.
don't walk up to Windows for Windows anymore. That's where I'm at right now. I've got, a couple hundred clients with Windows, but for solar panels, to me, this is a new open bar. This is really cool.
How many of those are solar thermal? How many of them are PV?
That I don't know.
No, so solar thermal for the pool, like, because I notice how many pools there are. So sometimes somebody will put a thermal.
I'm sorry. Yeah, 90% solar.
PV for electricity, yeah.
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 So and all the other ones are kind of phasing out. The rubber ones,
Yeah.
Yeah, they're phasing out. I cleaned a couple of those. I don't want to. I'm not going to anymore.
No. Yeah, unless they're
It's a
high-tech,
waste of
they're not
time.
worth it.
Yeah. And let me just say, in this part, that's the part of, if we don't understand what's pushing us and motivating us, then we're going to try to gain that client's approval because maybe we didn't get it growing up. And then now we're going to do something that we didn't really want to do. And,
right.
I don't know, Perry, you or Ben, if you ever gone on a job and they said, can you also do this? And you go, yeah, and you kind of don't want to, and you bid it and you're doing it, but you're not happy while you're doing it. Have you ever come across something you're like, I underbid this, or, I really don't want to do this in the future? I have, and it's like, I had to come to the part within me to be able to go, I'm okay saying no. I'm okay if I lose this customer. You talked about when we're young and we're, taking care of our parents. There's a lot of what's called codependency there.
Yeah.
And a lot of times,
if you're not codependent as a child, you're an orphan.
You're dead. Yes. Yeah.
Right.
But those stages of interdependence and independence.
Yes.
They don't always come to fruition, because if we didn't get our needs met, that's where we're stuck. And that's why a lot of people that are codependent as adults continue to love beyond what they feel is love beyond health. In other words, you get the woman who's going out with the alcoholic guy and he's beating her up, and she goes to the hospital and the doctor says, please leave him, and she says, no, I just know if I can do one more, be a better person, he'll accept me, he'll give me his approval. Now, that's not all consciously said, but that's the beyond awareness, is people just don't realize that these unconscious decisions are being made, and they don't understand.
But those people, I understand what you're saying very much, because I used to be a youth pastor, and also because I care about people.
I'm sorry, you should say what? You used to be a what?
Youth pastor.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. So I was involved in that, and then I did neurolinguistic programming, so also, which helps in counseling and coaching and helping people and all of that. But however, that there's people that are that their path is going in a down or like flatlining is often not succeeding. Often doesn't mean it is not the definition of success or failure, but it's often not succeeding. But the people who get their own business and set up their own business and go to clean windows are, as a rule, not those people. They're not the people running codependency, I don't think. That's my thinking, is those are the people who are getting out there and saying, okay, I'm independent. I want to be paid according to what I deliver, according to what my talent. I don't want to be paid a wage where I'm compared against the workforce. I want to be paid according to what the market thinks I'm worth, which is, the art of business. You get what you deserve, basically.
Yeah.
And what you chase. If you don't chase, you don't get, even if you deserve it.
Yeah. Certainly there are people who are resilient to their upbringing, and they've not allowed that to identify who they are.
Yep.
let's just say victims, if you will. I believe that there's a lot involved with that. That's a conversation that could take hours. But the idea is,
Yeah.
how do we get past feeling a certain way about ourselves and not allowing that to become part of our decision making, that are very important decisions that we need to make, so that we're not stuck in a rut, not being, our as Ryan said the other day, Clayton, the best that we could be, if you will.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot of times. I've trained a lot of individuals who have successful companies, and then I've watched a lot that, because they didn't feel they deserved, then they didn't last, and they could have, but they weren't concerned about showing up on time. They weren't concerned with how their appearance looked. They didn't make phone calls to their clients. So all that is what I call is an unconscious sabotaging of oneself.
Yeah.
So if somebody doesn't feel they deserve to succeed, and again, that's a very relative term, then they can sabotage it without even knowing it. And that's that part that I had to shift from, because years ago, before I actually started my business, I had a friend, and he had this really good job, and he lost it. He had another good job, he lost it. And I said, you were just at this job, and I think it's 3 or 4 now. And he says, yeah, my friend said I just keep sabotaging my work. And that's just like, wow, that is that is an amazing concept, that we actually can have that much power within ourselves without even knowing, and we're actually sabotaging our success.
Yeah, but I get what you're saying, but from an audience point of view, so I'll put my 2 bob in, right?
Sure.
I don't co-victim. I don't rescue, right?
Yeah.
Now some people do rescue, and they can rescue, and I don't, right? I coach, counsel, help, angel. Like, I'm definitely, I definitely get appointed to a person at a moment to say something that changes their life from time to time. Those are amazing moments, and I've had people do that to me, and speak, sitting in an airplane, one guy spoke into my life and just made an amazing difference to amazing turning point. And I never saw him again, so I get that. But for pressure washers, window cleaners, exterior service guys, the majority of the people who would listen to this podcast, for example, would not, I don't think, are struggling at that level. I think they are, even like, I look at Ben, Ben's do. He's got all his CRM stuff. He's got all his branding stuff. He's got all his door knocking, and he's got kahunas, bro. He's got balls, right? So he can just go out and knock on a door and get a new customer. I love it. Like, Ben, the other day, you were saying, I have got, nothing to do, so I just went and hung some door hangers. And I go, wow, I just, how many people do that?
Yeah. I heard, Ben, you're the merch king. Really cool. And
the merch king.
Yes.
And by the way, I love your truck.
Oh, thank you.
And your trailer and the lights. Awesome.
Thank you. Took some effort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got that. So, they talk about the journey and succeeding and stuff. And, when you get to look at the results of your, there's a scripture that see, work and see good for all your hard, rejoice and see good for all your hard work. Well, if we don't take time to do that, I'm not saying you aren't, but if people don't take the time to do that, they're just waiting for the next job. And so there's that motivating them too. And so, there's a scripture that turned my life around when I thought about, again, 35 years ago, what is it that's motivating me? And it was, pay a constant attention to yourself and to your teaching. And I went, that's interesting. How do I do that? You know, because I understand what it means in one regard, but I realize that it's what I believe God is asking those who read and want to follow it is listen to your internal dialogue, pay constant attention to it. So it wasn't just a passing thing of, you know, what are you thinking of today? It's like, how do you think? How do we as humans think? What is going on in our internal discussion? Because a lot of it has to do with what we're going to actually be doing. And a lot of it could limit us from areas that we can actually grow in. I had a cool experience with that. I've played racquetball for about 30 years. And years ago, I was signing up at a new gym, and they had this court where you go in there and there's a chalkboard. You put your name down there. And so it's like whoever wins, the winner stays in, and, you know, the next person who's on the chalkboard comes in. And I went in there, and it was the best player in the gym. He was what they call an A player. And for those who know racquetball, the game goes to 15. I had 13, and he had 4. Guess who won? He did. It wasn't because I wanted him to win. It was because in my brain, my internal conversation was, I can't beat him. He's the best here. And so that helped me.
By the way, this is awe.
I understand.
That's how it works.
Yeah.
All works like that.
Yeah. And then again, there's the awe that actually has a healthy aspect to it. You know, we see a sunset or a sunrise. We're in awe of our creator. Something like that. That's deserved. You know.
Yes.
That's deserved. Yes. But I understand what you're saying. So, part of helping me succeed in my business and shifting my perspective was reading articles that were Bible-based that helped me to understand how limiting myself by my internal dialogue was preventing me from feeling worthy. And there was
and that's because that's the theme. You know, the theme is you know, I'm not worthy. The theme. So the pickup points for people to pick up what you're putting down is the people who have a sense of lack of worthiness. You know, like, and there's other ones that people have to work through, which are, some people think they're amazingly worthy but unlovable, or amazingly worthy but something. I'm going to bring Harrison in. Harrison is here.
Is Harrison talking about my accent? Are you talking about was it my accent, Harrison, you were talking about?
Oh, no, that was Perry's accent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my accent. I talk funny. Yeah, I can't say or properly.
Oh. Ben was like, or.
Ben heard or.
Gotcha.
Right? You need those hard R's, right? Or.
Yeah.
Or.
Nice to meet you, Harrison.
Very likewise, Robert.
Yeah. I know you wanted me to buy a G-Force, but I bought a solar rocker instead. Hopefully you're okay with that.
You know what? I can't win them all.
Yeah. But evidently you won something there, which is cool.
Yeah, I was thinking like a lack of worthiness. I've suffered from that for not suffered, you know, that's probably indicative of having it. But for the past, you know, 10, 15 years. And one of the things I like to think about is it's mainly what's hitting now is more like an imposter syndrome than a lack of worthiness. So am I like, things are going well, things are going great. When are people going to find out that I'm not the guy that should be getting these things? Like other people are mistaking me. So it's a little, but I've got a great mate of mine, Scott, and he's almost fixed this in me because he's hyper positive.
Mm-hmm.
He's high. Like anytime I talk away, he pulls me up on it and goes, "No, mate, no. That's wimpy stuff, right? Like you're not allowed to do that. I only want you to talk towards what you're going for. There is no talking away from it. Yes, you've earned it. Come on, you put the work in. You've earned it. Like so." Yeah, I think.
And I think we're always wanting to be perceived. This is something we're always wanting to be perceived by others. Like how am I going to be seen? What am I? And that's what drives that. Am I perceived? To be like Harrison's going. He's worthy. He's done all the work. He owns it all, but he's still worried. Will other people see that I am experiencing insecurity? Well, hell. Michael Jackson would get anxiety before he'd go on stage. And most performers get anxiety before they go on stage. They have their little routine of how they deal with that and cope with that. But you know what I mean? Like the fact that we feel this or that or less this or less that. But the real part, I think, part of the cure is just stop trying to appear as something, and then we've got to try and spin it back into how it works for people in business, because we're not our audience is not typically people that are struggling through these issues. There are definitely people struggle through these issues.
Yeah, and I can't speak for everyone. I just know a lot of individuals that are quote unquote successful in business do still struggle with them. I just see it all the time. And again, it's to degrees that can't be quantified, because just because somebody struggles with feelings of despair or grief or unworthiness doesn't mean that they're not able to succeed in certain areas.
Correct. Yes, this is valuable. Like in depression, I mean, you definitely see some guys, who talk online about being, experiencing depression, and they're successful business people. Right?
When you think, going back to the Bible, God inspired people to write their feelings out. And a lot of people, Lamentations is about not just grieving, it's lamenting, it's wailing. David had his say upon his couch, but he was in grief and anguish and pain because Saul was chasing him. I can go on, but you get the picture.
No, I missed it. Where did he say write it out?
Oh, I have my say upon my couch is what David said. In other words, he was going through stuff, and he wasn't the only one. Hannah, when she was praying, they're going through stuff that they had to get it out. When you think of what emotions are, E-motion, energy and motion. And when we don't get that energy out, then we get sick. That's what happens. And a lot of people don't realize.
I think that, by the way, I think that's a bit of a long shot that E stands for energy. It's convenient.
Okay.
But
let me give you the difference between like feelings and emotions, just so you can understand where we're going. Okay.
Right.
You get cut off on the freeway.
Yeah.
You have a certain feeling inside. Maybe you're nervous. Maybe you're angry. That's a feeling. Now you step on the gas and you go after them, and road rage happens. However that happens.
But what if you go, that guy's in a hurry?
No,
it's no problem.
Okay. So let me just finish here for a second.
Okay.
So you're pushing down on the pedal and you're going after somebody. That's energy and motion. That's emotion. Okay. There's vibrations or frequencies that are able to be measured, that understand that these things have.
What if I put my brake on to let him in? Is that negative energy and motion? Negative emotion?
No. We're talking about something that could lead to a negative.
Emotion is beautiful as well as negative. Like, that's a negative example of emotion, but emotion is beautiful as well, right?
Yeah. And so it's not an all or none. That's not what I'm referring to. You take a word, and there's obviously, I don't necessarily like the word positive and negative. It's just what they are. It's just what we do with them, because God has.
You made up a word, emotion as energy and motion.
I didn't make it up. It's what it is. Energy and motion. What does the E stand for?
It's a word. The E doesn't stand for anything. What does the O stand for in emotion?
Well, you're dealing with something that's in motion. So why don't they just call it motion? I just for sake of time, I'll just say this,
Yeah.
that when we have this build up inside and we don't have a place to put it, it wreaks havoc in our system.
Right.
There's actually a scripture that talks about having jealousy that's rottenness to the bones. So this inappropriate, unhealthy feeling that we have of being jealous, and I'm not talking about the proper jealousy, but improper jealousy. Here our creator saying it affects our bones. So even though it's not a medical book, it's certainly supported by what they have found out.
No,
So,
Louise L. Hayes is the
Yeah.
best book to read if you've got any symptoms at all. You can go to Louise L. Hayes. What's it called? Heal Yourself, maybe.
Yeah.
And you get the affirmation and you get the thing. And I never believed in it, but when I was going through a divorce, I had a numb ring finger, and I decided to go back to this book, and it said that's the relationship, the marriage, and I go, okay, it's 100% real.
Yeah.
My thing, Robert, is the direction towards the picking up of the week, and the explanation of the negatives, is basically the tone of this, and I like the encouragement of people, so it's not picking up, but I've got a feeling that you do pick up people, so that's your thing, and but for me, there's the other people, and you can say all those people that are doing really well are also experiencing all of these things, but they're not experiencing them in the same way,
Exactly. That's why I said you can't measure, you can't quantify, because each person's different. Some people are more resilient. Regardless, there are a lot of people that are going through stuff who have excellent businesses. This isn't about it's all or none, and that's kind of like how we've been told to think. It's been inculcated from youth. You're either good or you're bad. You're right or you're wrong. And it's like, no, there's certain things that are there. Well, being a previous youth pastor, is that what you said you were?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got the whole first part of the Bible that had the letter of the law, the Mosaic law. People needed specifics, right? And then when Jesus came, you had the spirit of the law, or more principles. So it wasn't an all or none. Like the scribes and Pharisees said, you had to wash yourself up here to be holy, and it's like, wait a second, so we get involved with an all or none type of thing instead of principles, and that's what I love about the Bible, is there's principles in here that allow
what's your favorite principle?
What is my favorite principle?
I'll tell you mine. Mine's to your own self be true. I've got it tattooed on my.
Nice. Beautiful. I love it.
It's that's actually in Perry's handwriting.
Oh, really?
I may have had half a bottle of gin.
I didn't tattoo him.
I decided to pull the trigger, but I love it.
Yeah,
I absolutely love it.
I will say
he rang me in Starbucks one day and he said, "Hey, what's that saying you keep saying to me?" And I go, "To your own self be true," right? Because you got to know yourself first before any of the stuff makes sense, right? And that's that journey. No, Ben, when I mention your age or whatever, it's just you go, how many years have you had to know yourself from the beginning of the adult experience, which let's say is 18, which is probably the beginning of it, maybe 16. And so Harrison rang me and said, what's that saying? I said, to your own self be true. He said, can you write it down somewhere? And I was in Starbucks. So I just got a pen from the girl and a tissue from, the paper towel, and just wrote, to your own self be true. And he was actually in a tattoo parlor right at the time. I sent it to him over like messenger kind of thing. And then the next time I see him, he's got it bloody tattooed on his arm, But it's a good principle. So what's your favorite principle? Let's go. You had time to think.
Well, it's hard to say one, but one of the ones I think that is most has most of an effect on me as an individual is to love your neighbor as yourself, because God wants us to have some self-worth by having not just feeling good about who we are, but actually loving ourselves. And again, not in a narcissistic way, but to feel like we have self-worth, and it can only be compounded with the one who put us here.
Okay, so how do you love your neighbor that way?
Well, you mentioned before, Perry, several things that you kind of use on a consistent basis, which I totally agree with. You use the words honesty, integrity, right?
Yeah.
So if we're honest with our neighbors, if we're polite to our neighbors, if we're kind to our neighbors, doesn't mean that we subscribe to maybe the things that they do, but what can we do to set the proper example and to be somebody who is working to live what the scriptures tell us to, what God's saying.
So therefore, by definition, if you love your neighbor like you love yourself, then you use honesty, politeness, and kindness to love the neighbor. So therefore, your definition of love of yourself is honesty, politeness, and kindness. Is that a fair correlation?
It's part of it. But when you're dealing when you're dealing with such a profound concept as love, you can't put it into a category and keep it there.
Right, but you need to be able. Robert, you got to be able to define. You can't have. Not everything can be left in nebulous and undefined or undefinable.
Well,
you have to be able to draw some conclusions of say how do I love my, like if you're Robert Lesser, right? My favorite principle in the Bible is love my neighbor like myself. I've grown up not worthy. I've learned to love myself so that I'm worthy. I know what that means, and now I'm going to apply that to my neighbor. Like that. But though we should be able to define it.
Well, really. I think I agree with you.
How do we know we love ourselves if we can't define what love is to ourselves?
No,
and then how do we give it to our neighbor if we can't say it's working for me? What it is that's working for me? It's still got to be in your cognition.
No, I totally agree, and I think the best definition is actually what's written down there. Love is kind. Love is patient. Love is long suffering. Love does not look out for its own interest. I mean, it has a beautiful summation of what love is. So it's not just this or this, because different things change with different situations that come up. So for some people, we might need to show more patience, and maybe they need to show more patience with us. So there's different facets of it that come and go. Love is a verb. It's not just this is it and that's it. It's an ongoing action that transpires based on interactions with people, because different things come up at different times.
One other thing that interests me or intrigues me basically about this principle of loving others as you'd love yourself is Harrison's mum actually was when we were in the church and everything. But for me, I just need words. Like, I'm the easiest guy to please. I love you, Perry. And if somebody says that to me, I'm like, I'm fine. Completely saturated, But in there's a book called The 5 Languages of Love, which is, if I can remember them, touch, words.
Sacrifice time. Gifts. And did you have touch?
Touch, let's say that. So Harrison's mum is just touch and feel. She is a highly tactile human being. Yeah. So for her, touch and feel makes her feel loved. That's her little language. I mean, everybody has all of them.
A hug is more important than like the words "I love you" or like a gift or something like that,
or a watch, or anything. Sitting on the couch watching TV together with your arm around her, she's in heaven. Me, I'm words. So I want to love her I want to love her like I love myself because I'm young, I'm 20, I'm Ben's age, So I love her like I love myself, and I go, love you, see ya. I'm off to do business. And she's there year after year with so few of these, huggy moments. And then she'd get on to me and like hug, and I'm going like, like I'm not here to hug. I got to do stuff. Like I'm ambitious, I'm driven, but speak to me and I'm saturated, So our language of love is so different, And I was doing to her as I would have done to myself, and she was doing to me as she would have done to herself, and we were not doing to each other as they would have done to themselves. Right? So we didn't understand any of that back then.
Yeah. I mean, at that age, it's very difficult. We're still trying to figure out who we are. But one of the parts that help facilitate that situation is that here, God says that we should love our wives and the wife should respect the husband. So it doesn't mean that, that the contrast isn't true, but it's kind of like showing the distinction between what is needed more so from the feminine one and as opposed to the husband. So, we do appreciate being respected, and they appreciate being loved. And you just described that. So
yeah, I don't know that my definition of respect is called "I love you." By the way,
no,
I think respect is way, way deeper than I just need a few sweet words.
Perry,
Ben wrote to me, "Thank you, Perry," or something. I go, I feel good. What
were you gonna say, Harrison?
Oh, I said, Perry, I love you.
Thank you, bro. Euphoric.
So, just being able to understand the distinction is what I was referring to. Not necessarily that you did what she wanted, and vice versa. It just shows the distinction. That's why, in answering your question, kind of like full circle of where we are, is what helped change me and shift my perspective on things was the principles in the scriptures to help me with these different facets of growing up, my life. What happens now with a relationship? What happens now with decisions in business? How do I feel about myself when a client says no? And am I able to say?
Are you still dealing with that at our age?
No, not at all. Not at all.
So, okay.
No.
But you're teaching it.
Yeah, for many years. It's
right.
It's something that I enjoy doing. You asked me what my favorite principle was. I'll just say my favorite. It's not a principle as much as a commandment. Is to love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And that's the four components that make up the human: physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And we work to.
Yeah, you're deep in on this. I can feel this because we kind of I get it. What is your attitude to how does God see because there's different viewpoints from different religions and different churches. What is your viewpoint about business? Being God-fearing. If I can just leave that as the definition, which would define. Do you separate between the different religions and cults? Do you think that there's any form of exceptionalism in the human experience and their relationships with God in whatever form it takes?
Well, I think he's the best one to answer that, and he has by saying.
He doesn't. He probably does know what you think, but I asked, "What do you think?"
Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought you were referring to. Okay, so
like, do you? So, firstly, the first step is: do you personally feel that there's any form of exceptionalism between one religion and another across in the world, and then within Christianity? Is one religion you have to belong to any particular division?
I feel that if a person's not following what God says to follow to the best of their
Yeah.
ability, and I'm not
So
talking about,
if they're like, so if they're a Jehovah's Witness and that's God's calling us to be a Jehovah's Witness,
Uh-huh.
and somebody else is a Baptist and God's calling us for them to be a Baptist, then you're cool with that.
well, I don't. God is the God of truth, so there's not
No,
two
but
sets.
I know,
To
but
answer your
my question, no, you didn't answer the question because I said,
No,
are
so I was
you cool
going
with
to.
that? And you answered what God did, and I didn't ask God whether he was cool with that. I asked you if you were cool with that.
Oh, I believe, and I feel the same way God feels. In other words, acceptance is one thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Respecting free will. I mean, God gives all of us free will. So if He dignifies humans with free will to worship however they want, then it's up to us to also have His viewpoint and to dignify people's choices. Now, I will say that
if they are non-Christian, do they still have that freedom from Him?
that's not for me to say. But I do know scriptures that help us appreciate how He feels. I mean, if you, again, you've obviously read portions of the Bible, if not the whole thing, and you've taught it and stuff.
The whole thing, bro.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
Yeah. And so being able to understand His track record allows us to understand His viewpoints on different ways of worship. There's reasons why individuals got wiped out in many areas because of their, sacrificing their kids to the altar. Well, that's their free will. That's their choice. But just because they're choosing to worship whoever they want it doesn't mean that He's subscribing to it. So
we wipe our kids to the altar of war. We
totally
give up
agree.
entire generations of our own children to war.
I totally agree.
For nothing, for oligarchs, for nothing.
I totally
Not
agree.
For God,
I
in
don't,
the name of God.
And the organization I belong to doesn't at all. And that's very important because here's Jesus says, live by the sword, die by the sword. So how can we say that we're following Him if we're doing something?
You would become, in the event of being conscripted, you'd become a moral objector.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with that, except if you needed to defend your wife and your children or your neighborhood or whatever. I think
a defense without per se killing is a little different. But
it's pretty hard to defend without killing if it's somebody's after your family. But let's face it, we haven't had anybody after, especially in America, like since the inception of America. Well, since the Civil War, is probably the last time that somebody was actually out to kill the people that you loved. And other than that, it's the war gets fought somewhere else, where we send our children somewhere else in the world to die or come back and be a veteran and enjoy that life.
Yeah. Again, those. Sorry.
Yeah. No, but they're interesting things because they all happen under this umbrella of God's watch. And so we can have this personal relationship and perfect it personally, but culturally, our cultures are culturally, we're kind of walking a little bit far from that path, aren't we?
Yeah.
Now.
Ben had a comment here. What about the 10 Commandments? Thou shalt not kill. You go, Ben. Look at that. It's in his 20s that he knows that. Rock and roll.
Okay, but then you've got they travel through the wilderness, and then they see Palestine now, and it goes, you see the Amalekites or whatever they are, and kill every man, woman, and child. That's also the commandment of God. So those were God's sanctioned wars, and they were specific because those individuals. But how does He sanction a war now when the Bible's already been printed? He doesn't. Well, what if He does? What if He wants to? Like, there's no borders. I mean, love your neighbor as yourself doesn't mean that unless they're in another country. So we have to understand that there's a specific principle that is being
asked, and then it's really a law. You shouldn't murder. It's not up for debate. It's just, I have a lot of individuals, friends of mine back in the day who would go to jail instead of going to war. Well, if everybody did that, followed that Bible command, here we are.
and it doesn't. You can just it doesn't need to be that.
Well, and that's what I look forward to, actually, a time when all these things will be done away with, the injustice and everything. And I know you said the other day that, people said for 2,000 years, they've been saying Jesus is coming and stuff. And I reflected on that.
You have been listening.
Yeah. I reflected on
you guys have built a temple for him to come back to twice. Have you not?
Who's
I'm
we?
guessing.
Help me.
I'm guessing. Who's you?
We?
I'm guessing.
No, I don't know.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, you are. I don't know what you're referring to. What temple did we build?
Do you have temples?
No.
What's your mega house? No.
Jesus said when there'll come a time. Remember when he was showing the apostles the Jerusalem, and he says, this is going to be gone, stone without, all that. And he says the time is coming, is now, when God's looking for people to worship him with spirit and truth. It wasn't about a destination, he was saying. Doesn't mean that we don't have meetings where we get together and we appreciate scriptural points so we can get closer to and understand what God wants from us. But there's not a main this or that. Our leader is Jesus. He's our exemplar.
You don't have a human leader?
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
In the organization? In the time on earth?
Nope.
Wow.
Well, okay. He says your leader is one, the Christ.
Right.
Okay.
So, we're over the 9 o'clock. So I think I'm thinking that your message here is that the wisdom behind the business is God.
Well, not necessarily that, as again, not compartmentalizing. That's it. But the principles, even here, in the, what do you call it? Are they called steps? Are they called portions? Sectors. Thank you. Every one of them is based off a principle in the scriptures. Every one of them.
Right.
Whether with giving back, more happiness in giving. If you have something good to give your neighbor, give it to them. To get a client, you have to be honest. You have to have integrity. All these things help us to appreciate that there is some specific wisdom that far precedes what we have today. It's been around for thousands of years. And if people followed it, we'd have a better world. Just the golden rule. I mean, this isn't rocket science. And again, you don't have to be religious or even believe in God to understand that,
Denver made a comment. He put it up in here. And he said, can you pop it up? I think the translation is "Thou shalt not murder." Murder is different than kill. So
the idea of taking a life, let's just go with that, because when you get into semantics, you're dealing with, it doesn't say this, but it says this. It says, don't take a life. Okay.
That's like.
I lost you.
No, I'm thinking.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So okay. So anyway, yeah. Okay, I get it. So I because I know, I just know the history of America, and in the very early days of American history, it was really life by the gun. Yeah.
Yeah.
They had in the Wild West, you'd walk backwards over, you'd shoot another guy over a woman, she's my woman or she's your woman. Let's decide this outside. And like one of you is going to cop a bullet and could die, and you go, Like we're so far removed. We're so like, so far removed from that level of brutality. But there are other countries in the world where that's still, very much, the type of lifestyle and culture which people grow up in. So at what point do you just how do you fight for your wife? Like, for example, if there's I don't know that I really want to know, but I just think, that's what I was going to say. Like in those early days, a group of people of one religion, right, would build a walled camp, and then they'd have guys walking around on the platform on the top of the walled camp and shooting anybody who wanted to come. And what do you do when let's say that in those days the American Indians, as the indigenous people of that land, wanted that land back from the invaders, and guys are sitting there with guns to defend against, otherwise they're going to get burnt to the ground. What do you do? That's what it's so American to carry a gun, open carry, concealed carry, get ready to defend, kill.
Yeah.
I don't mean murder, kill. I think that's where Denver's going. That's why I picked it up, what he's putting down, I think.
What's really cool about getting involved with these heavy duty subjects, if you will, because life and death is a serious thing. I do appreciate and love this about God, that it says the rock perfect is his activity, all his ways are justice. So whatever took place in the past, I am confident that he'll do what's fair. It'll be absolutely just.
So the Indian burns your village down, and that's cool.
No, I didn't say that. I don't know. It's nice to not have the weight of trying to be a judge about circumstances that have happened.
About defending your family? Like, surely we must have an opinion, like a rigid, strong opinion about some things. And I'm a pacifist, by the way. I'm a complete pacifist. I've never punched anybody. I've never fought anybody. I'm a pacifist by nature. Yeah. I joined the Navy to go to war at 15 years old, but that was me at 15. So I've evolved. I bought a gun when I moved from the countryside, or I brought a gun with me to the country. I moved to a city, and I moved into Sydney, and Sydney's got crime and rape and all this sort of stuff. And I bought a gun and put it under my bed when I moved to Sydney to defend my family, And I don't even know what I did with the gun. I can't even relate that I ever owned a gun, but I owned a gun. That was this guy, right? At some point.
Yeah.
So, but you know what I mean? So I think we've still got to have some rigidity. We can't dissolve everything into jelly when it should be solid verbally.
So here's what's solid. Thou shall not kill. That's solid. There's no semantics or trying to get around that and stuff.
No, I don't think it's semantics. I think it's but that's all right. I get that.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to get around something. I'm just saying, who am I to say that that's not legit?
Well, the issue is that internally say, I shall not kill, right? I shall not kill, because I'm talking about myself, right? Yeah. Then this other guy comes along, and he's from the same culture, born in the same country, maybe not anymore with the problems with the immigration there, and then he goes, well, I got to kill, right? So then we go, okay, kill me. Like that's the bit that I don't get. I don't get the submission. There's a perceived weakness, which to me is not godlike. It's just he's not telling. In my opinion, for what it's worth, he's not telling us just to be, go to jelly, get on your knees, beg him, and say, please don't kill me, because I'm not going to kill you. That's probably how I'd probably try and work my way out of it personally, as I'd probably talk my way out of it and say, dude, I got no problem with you. Harrison's got a whole story about that as well. How he got through, he went to a school which just had all these bullies, and he ended up with a bully supporting him. But, anyway, I mean, it's a religious conversation, and it's or conviction. It's not a religious conversation. It's a conviction conversation, too.
Yeah, and the nice thing is it's not just about one specific avenue of how to look at something. There's principles involved that help us to have a more rounded understanding. But one of the things that we haven't even touched here when we're dealing with somebody's death, for whatever reason or however it's done, do we believe that our Savior is the one that can resurrect them?
Well, if they're the person who killed us, so we're going to worry about whether he's going to resurrect us.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that guy.
Yeah. I wasn't referring to that. I was referring to if, in other words, if somebody said, don't worship God anymore or else I'll shoot you. Okay.
Well, we did that in the Spanish Inquisition. Well, the other way around. Worship God or we'll shoot you.
Yeah. Well, but, in the concentration camp, they did that to, they called them the Purple Triangle, Jehovah's Witnesses. They did that. And people died. But do you think they're going to be resurrected? Do you think that God appreciated?
I can't. I'm not the judge, so I've got to leave that to the big fella upstairs.
Right. So again, if all his ways are justice, and he reads their heart and recognizes why that they, how they served him with everything they had, being these 90-pound old men and women who didn't have anything, but they had their integrity.
Right.
And they worship God to death. It's like how Jesus did that. I'm not saying that they went out to do that, but I'm saying that's what did happen. And so in the scriptures, it says, God says he's going to remember that. And that's why a translation is better than a version, because we're going to get involved in, those aren't specific words, that were used to actually.
I know, but you can't escape every conversation into that argument, because that's come up like 6 times now. We should be specific. We should have formed opinions. We should have, things that we can chew on and battle on without, if I ask you something and then you go, blah, 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 blah. But it's dissolved, right? And it shouldn't, I don't think it needs to be dissolved. Like we're just 2 people having a conversation. Sure. Nobody cares. Nobody cares what we think. Right?
Well, I don't necessarily concur with that.
They can find it interesting, but they don't care. Nobody's going to go away and go like whatever.
Well, think about this whole.
We're not going to convert anybody to anything.
No, I understand, but just think about what's being done here in the whole program. We're sharing things, which, by the way, I would have loved to actually talk about my business, but but people do care about things that we may not think they care about, because they're going through the same challenges, they're having the same questions. They're wondering, just like you said the other day, I secretly worry about the economy. So these are things that are in people.
Not secretly, publicly.
Well, you said when you said it, secretly I'm feeling this way, but then you said it publicly.
Right.
So these are ongoing challenges that everybody, regardless of their religion, is being faced with. And fortunately, in the organization I belong to, I found satisfactory answers of things that will take place. And just to let you know, I'm not going to heaven. I have no qualms whatsoever to say that. I definitely am not. But
I didn't ask.
No, but the idea of being able to.
I already know. Like, if you're the guy who says, "I don't know, only God knows," then I don't know how you know that you're not, unless you've done something real bad.
No, it's not the all or none. It's not the heaven.
Are you going or you're not going? You said you're not going. Like, why the hell not? Why not? Aren't you going there?
Because according to Revelation, those that are going there have a specific assignment. They have a job.
Oh, and you don't have that.
I don't have that job. I don't have that desire to be a king.
How do you know that?
Because
what if you get called for it? What if you're the most humble man on the earth and that's who he's looking for?
Well, if that does happen, you'll be the first I call. But I have inside of me.
I could be there too, bro. I could be there too. We could feast together as kings.
Well, I'm just letting you know where I stand. And, you know, when Jesus said the
Yeah.
meek will inherit the earth, that meant that
Yeah,
there's
that's what
going to be
I'm
people.
thinking. I think you're meek.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
It goes to show that people will actually be living here on the earth that
Oh,
are
okay,
meek.
I got that.
That are
That
meek. That's what he
okay.
said. Inherit
Yeah.
means not a burned up cylinder or you know globe or
Okay,
blown
I got
up.
it. I got it. I got it. I got it. I
And
got it.
when you said that the other day, I thought about you afterwards, and I said, you know, one thing I want to share with Perry that might help him understand something a little differently, scriptures, because you're right. For 2,000 years, people said Jesus is coming.
Yeah.
So either A, he's lying to us and he's not coming.
No.
He's given us
No.
false hope, or he's given us a timetable that not that everybody knows the day or the hour, but things that we can look at, which he mentioned in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, specific
Yep.
things.
And for 2,000 years, people have seen them. They're all,
Well,
natural occurrences that
but not
happen
to,
seasonally.
well, not to the extent they are now. But here's the real the
How
one
do
that
you know?
they've had measurements
Like
of
if you go
earthquakes.
back, okay, right? Yeah, I know, dude. But you can see an earthquake that happened in Taiwan yesterday, 1 minute after it happened. You go back like 500 years ago, nobody can see shit what happened in Taiwan. Like they didn't even know it happened. So they go, oh, there's so many more earthquakes since social media and the internet came
Okay.
along.
So
Yeah,
you know when how old are you, Perry?
61.
Okay. So when we were in school, actually before we were in school, I'm going to be 64. So before
Yeah.
we were in school, they had a survey of the
I'm
top
going to be
10.
62.
Oh, excellent.
If we're going to be,
Yeah,
how old am I?
I just checking. Yeah, what's today because it's close. Um,
Okay, me too. What day are you born on?
May 6th.
That's not close, dude.
Okay,
I'm
so
April 10. That's close.
I understand. Um, so to be able to understand how things were back in the 50s, they said,
Yeah.
what's the worst thing, the top worst 10 worst things that were happening in schools? And you know what the number one what thing was?
Bullying.
Talking back to the teacher.
Oh, okay.
Fast forward a few
Yeah.
decades, the worst thing, shooting the teacher. So we can't say
I
that
don't think
well
I've
things
heard
have
of that happening.
always happened this way. There's been bad things, but now we're looking at a whole conglomeration of things happening at the same time. The
I
same
know,
time.
but to be fair, that is super culturally confined, to America.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. No, like you look at what happens in other parts of the world. That their change of what's bad to what's before and what's bad now is not changed like that.
Oh,
You
I
know,
understand what you're saying. I thought that
dimensionally.
they didn't have
Yeah,
problems.
America has a dimensional degradation
Well,
of from the Brady Bunch,
yeah,
family,
yeah,
everybody, all the kids play in the street,
sure,
that's
sure.
all, the
Yeah,
breakdown of the family, the breakdown of marriages, the breakdown of
yeah,
society, the breakdown of gender related stuff,
yeah.
all that.
But
That's
so we,
pretty much America.
yeah, so we see a lot of stuff that's happening. Here's the one that I had thought about when you said that. Revelation 11:18, the last 11 words, it says that there'll come a time when God will bring to ruin those ruining the earth.
Mm-mm-mm.
So
How's he going to do that?
um, he'll take care of business. But let's leave
What?
that up to him. But the
He's
point
going to
being
kill
is,
him. That's what's going to happen.
well, what did he do in Noah's day? There was violence throughout the whole earth, right? And they all died because they didn't listen,
Yeah,
obey, and get
but then
into
all the plant,
the ark.
everything died.
The point being
It was a
is,
sad day,
he cleaned up the earth, if you will, at that time.
right? Yeah,
Sodom and Gomorrah, he cleaned up, and
yeah,
those things actually did happen. They, there's artifacts, etc.
yeah.
But today, we couldn't say that they're ruining the earth to the degree that they are now. Decades ago, no, not even close. They were
Well,
thinking that.
there are lots of people living in parts of the world that are not ruining the earth and are saying that the West should be given the bill for ruining the earth
Regardless of who's
because
doing it, it's being done. And so he's saying this to us to help us appreciate that he's going to step in before
Oh,
it
yeah.
gets ruined.
Okay.
That's comforting, because most people think, well, everybody's got the bomb these days. You push a button,
I
So
don't think anybody's thinking about it.
okay,
I don't.
okay.
I don't. I
They
don't.
all,
I mean, I
but
know
they,
we're all aware of it, but everybody just carries on. Like
Mhm.
those
Yeah.
those who have got hope have hope. Those that don't share that hope have never been taught that hope, so they don't have that hope. They don't look for it. That
Yeah.
is my opinion. But we should wind up because we're now half an hour over. Very enjoyable. I'm in a weird way, because we didn't really talk about business, but interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you want a part two, like you gave to somebody else the other day, I could actually talk about things.
No,
But if not, it's totally cool.
I'm not sure. No, because I think it'll go. I think it'll go offline.
No. Actually, we don't have to do anything outside of what we did today. Nothing has to be today at all.
Yeah.
But it's up to you.
No, we're
It
good.
doesn't matter to me.
No.
Mhm.
That's good. All right, Benji, take it away.
All right. That is it, everybody. Thank you for joining today's show, and we will see you guys next time. See you later. Have an epic day.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
For joining our live stream today. We want to thank you for joining